Hi, everybody. Welcome to Christian Homestead. My name is Jared. We have another big change to the church. They just keep coming. Here's a general handbook update. We're going to look at this church news article and a letter from the First Presidency. And this is big. Ever since President Nelson became president of the church, we've seen all these big changes. When he passed away, I wondered, is it going to slow down? Is it going to stop? And no, it has not slowed down. And it has not stopped. And it's probably because a lot of these things were already in the works. They were already being studied, thought about. I don't think that President Oaks was at his desk and then suddenly a revelation came. He's like, okay, we got to get this out now. I think it's probably been in the works. But I believe that it is inspired of the Lord. And we're going to look at this from a second coming context. I have reason to believe that there are probably multiple reasons why these things happen, including preparing the church for the second coming and the millennium. Now, really quick, I want to give credit to my friend, Caitlin, with Anticipating Christ's Return. She sent me a text. She already did her video about it, so make sure to check her out and subscribe to her channel. But let's go ahead and get into this. This article is by Mary Richards. The latest updates to the General Handbook, Serving in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, include revised language and clear explanations of ordinances and covenants, more information about valiant super activities, Aaronic priesthood camps and young women camps, accessing patriarchal blessings, and calling men or women to ward Sunday school presidencies. And that's the big news. Now women can be in Sunday school presidencies. I don't remember a time when it was anything other than adult male Melchizedek priesthood holders. Although I saw this short from Jasmin Rappleye. She said that historian Jonathan Stapley said that in the 80s and before, you did have women that would serve in the Sunday school presidency. So I guess it's not unprecedented, but I guess it's been this way since the 80s. And now it's going back to women being able to be in Sunday school presidencies. And again, we're going to look at this from a second coming standpoint because I feel like probably all these changes have to do with the church becoming a global church, as well as preparing for a large influx of new converts. And so you might ask, what would this have anything to do with that? I'll show you. I'll show you in just a little bit. Let's continue. The updates were announced in a March 18th news release posted on churchofjesuschrist.org and in a notice sent to church leaders. A letter from the First Presidency further outlined the updates to Sunday school presidencies. Let's go ahead and read that just really quick. Dear brothers and sisters, the Ward Sunday School Presidency oversees efforts to improve gospel learning and teaching at home and at church. The First Presidency and Quorum of the 12 Apostles have determined that, effective immediately, the bishop may call a man or a woman to serve as Ward Sunday School President. If a man is called as Sunday School President, he must hold the Melchizedek priesthood, and his counselors and secretary must be male members of the ward. If a woman is called as Sunday school president, her counselors and secretary must be female members of the ward. Those who serve in the church are called of God, and leaders seek the guidance of the Spirit in determining whom to call. In any given ward, Sunday school presidencies may at times be composed of men and at other times of women, based on circumstances in the unit and the inspiration of leaders. The stake Sunday school president will continue to be a high counselor called and set apart by the stake president. We commend all who willingly serve in church callings, seeking to bless others and further the Lord's work in this dispensation. May you be blessed and magnified in your efforts. Sincerely yours, the First Presidency, Dallin H. Oaks, Henry B. Eyring, and D. Todd Christofferson. All right, so before we get into the second coming piece, let's just remind ourselves of everything that we've seen recently. So this is my newest addition to my second coming timeline, this is one of the places that I keep track of big changes to the church. So this was March 18th that this was announced. Let's go back in time and let's look at the big things that have changed during President Oak's presidency. The first thing that I have is the new sleeveless garments for women available nationwide. And I just recently found out via my wife that includes garment slips. I had no idea that was a thing or ever would be a thing, but it is. November 19th, Saturday evening session of General Conference discontinued. That is a big one. That is big. I'm still stunned by that, but it happened. November 21st, mission age lowered from 19 to 18 for women. So there's another big one involving women. December 14th, the Portland, Maine temple announced by Elder Alan D. Haney, United States Northeast Area President, at a stake Christmas devotional. First time a temple has been announced by a member of an area presidency. And going forward, temples are going to be announced in the area in which they're going to be built. And it can be announced by one of the 15 brethren or, like it says here, a member of the area presidency. December 16th, new guidance on using other Bible translations. So now it's not just the King James Version. It is still the preferred version, but you can use other translations of the Bible if it helps you understand the Bible better. And now we have this with women may now serve in the Sunday school presidency. So it really makes me wonder what might be announced during this general conference, because I think there will be announcements. And then what else is going to be announced this year? What about next year? What about with the next president of the church, if we have another president of the church before the second coming? Like, just at this point, it feels like the sky's the limit. I'm not surprised by anything anymore. Okay, now we're going to get into why this might be happening. And it involves this spreadsheet. This spreadsheet is called Timeline Preparing the Church for Second Coming. Now, I don't know for sure. I can't say it with authority, but I feel like all these changes, especially since President Nelson's time, probably have to do with preparing for the second coming and the reality of the beginning of the millennium. So let's do this little thought exercise here. I'm not going to explain every single thing, but here's, according to, I think, the church handbook, this is how big a stake is. This is how big a ward is. And then I did this, I put this together like 1 or 2 years, well, probably like 2 or 3 years ago, where I was thinking, okay, if this is how many people there are in the world, and we go through the second coming, and a certain number of people are removed from the earth because the wicked are going to be destroyed. And if we think about church membership and how many members of the church there are, let's say that everybody in the church makes it through to the millennium, which is not going to be the case, but let's just pretend that it is the case. I looked at Dodge City, Kansas, because when I put this together, I was living near Wichita, and I was like, oh, let's look at Dodge City. They have a ward there. The population at the time that I put this down was almost 28,000. And I was like, okay, let's say that 50% remain after the second coming. That's just a rough figure. We don't know what the percentage is going to be, but let's just say it's 50%. That would take it down to 13,894 residents of Dodge City. And then let's say either 70% of them join the church or 50% of them. I say that because a little bit later on, we're going to read a quote from Brad Wilcox that talks about the fact that in a day, there's going to be potentially 2 billion people that want to join the church. And again, we don't know if it's going to be that many, if it's going to be 2 billion, 1 billion, 100 million. It doesn't matter. Just a large number of people are probably going to want to join the church when Christ identifies this as his church. So let's say that in Dodge City, Kansas, 70% or 50% want to join the church. Let's just go with the 50% scenario. So the way that the ratios would potentially work out is that you'd have 28 new converts for every one member of the ward. If you reduce that to just ward adults, then it would be 70 new converts per one adult in the ward. If you look at the ratio of new converts to Melchizedek priesthood holders, it's more like 347 to 1. And then if it's more like 70% that join the church, then the numbers go up. The ratios go up. In that scenario, it'd be 486 new converts per one Melchizedek priesthood holder. And so the idea here is we're probably going to need all hands on deck. Everybody who's an active member of the church, you're probably going to have to assume some kind of leadership position. You're going to probably be asked to step up and help these new converts learn about the church. Well, there is another factor to think about. Let's go to the October 2020 General Conference. This talk is called Sisters in Zion by President Henry B. Eyring, at that time, second counselor in the first presidency. So he talks about the city of Enoch, and he reads from the book of Moses. And then he says, you sisters, your daughters, your granddaughters, and the women you have nurtured will be at the heart of creating that society of people who will join in glorious association with the Savior. You will be an essential force in the gathering of Israel and in the creation of a Zion people who will dwell in peace in the New Jerusalem. Later on, he says, if the past is prologue, at the time of the Savior's coming, the daughters who are deeply committed to their covenants with God will be more than half of those who are prepared to welcome him when he comes. But whatever the numbers, your contribution in creating unity among the people prepared for that Zion will be far greater than half. So if we're comparing men and women, he's saying women are going to have to step up. That there's going to be more women in the church that are righteous, committed to their covenants. And so is it really surprising that as we get closer to the second coming, you might have these positions open up when we don't know how many Melchizedek priesthood holders there's going to be after the second coming, after the destruction of the wicked, and after everything happens? So Melchizedek priesthood holders may become somewhat of a rare commodity and may be tied up with things that absolutely need a Melchizedek priesthood holder. Let's go to The Millennial Messiah by Elder Bruce R. McConkie. This is page 655. He says, this shall come to pass after the destruction of the wicked, and it is one of the many scriptural intimations that the generality of women are more spiritual than are most men. The inference is that far more women will abide the day of his coming than will be the case with men. All right, so as we're thinking about doctrine and the organization of the church, and I've heard this before. I think I heard this when the church was talking about baptisms and sealings. It was announced, October 2nd, 2019, that women, youth, and children may now serve as witnesses of sealing and baptismal ordinances. And I remember it being said that the church was looking at things like this and thinking, is there a doctrinal reason why a priesthood holder would need to be a witness? Is that the case or is it not? Because they're probably thinking about church growth, whether it's the second coming, or it could be certain parts of the world. Maybe there's certain parts of the world right now where there's not as many men. I don't know if that's the case in Africa or, third world countries. Maybe there's issues there. But there might be certain areas where it's like, okay, we have more women. Do we really need to have a Melchizedek priesthood holder as a witness for an ordinance? Or do we have to have them as Sunday school president? You see what I mean? And I feel like there's been a number of these changes that are along those lines. So we're looking at these items here that have purple in column D. In column D, I categorize these as priesthood workload redistribution and hastening. So December 14th, 2018, changes announced for primary progression, young men priesthood ordination, and youth. So let me explain this. It used to be that you had to turn 12. You had to reach your 12th birthday to then be ordained a deacon and receive the Aaronic priesthood. And same thing with moving on to the next priesthood office, teacher, priest. And remember that priests can baptize. I think that might be important whenever there's a large influx of new converts, especially after the second coming. Anyone who can baptize will probably be needed to baptize. Because if it's true that there are literally 2 billion people that want to join the church in a day, then that might be one of the primary things that you're doing for the next few years is baptizing people. I could be wrong, but that's why I feel like this may have to do with like, okay, let's not wait till their 12th birthday. Let's go ahead and the year that they turn 12, they become deacons, and then same when they become teachers and then priests. Okay. And then we already talked about this. Witnesses can now be women, youth, and children. And then a few days later, ward young men presidencies are discontinued. So again, you have men that have the Melchizedek priesthood, 3 of them that were the young men presidency. And now it's like, you know what? We'll just have the bishop go ahead and take care of that. We're going to free you up and you're going to be elsewhere, which may be even more helpful after the second coming and with a bunch of new converts. And then we have this, the one that we're talking about right now. Women may now serve in the Sunday school presidency. Now, I think the Lord, when he does things, he typically hits many birds with one stone. So there's probably ways that the church is benefiting from this right now. But another bird down the line could be the second coming and a large influx. You see how this might be helpful. Now, to finish this off, let's go to my spreadsheet called Quotes A through Z. This is currently row 392 for Millennium, Missionary work, and influx of converts. I'm just going to read a couple of these. We're going to read this one from Robert L. Millett and Joseph Fielding McConkie. He was the son of Bruce R. McConkie. This is in Our Destiny, The Call and Election of the House of Israel, published 1993, pages 340 to 342. We're just going to start right here, but as you can see, it's talking about the millennium. Okay, they read a scripture, and they say, and now note this most unusual statement. This is from 3 Nephi, chapter 21, verses 24 to 26. And then shall the work of the Father commence at that day, even when this gospel shall be preached among the remnant of this people. Then shall the work commence? Commence? The work of the gathering of Israel commenced in earnest even before the church was organized. The work of gathering was formalized in 1836 with the coming of Moses to the Kirtland Temple to deliver the keys of the gathering of Israel. Why then would the Lord speak of commencing his work in the millennium? Simply stated, the magnitude and magnificence and breadth and depth of the gathering in that glorious day will be such as to cause all previous efforts at gathering to pale into insignificance. It will be as though the work had just begun. Okay? So, I think a lot of people have it backwards. They think that the main work is happening now, and then when we reach the millennium, it's not really going to be about missionary work. It's going to shift mostly to temple work. Yeah, and there's going to be a lot of temple work done. That's one of the primary activities of the millennium. But at least at the very beginning, a lot of missionary work. So now, I have these two quotes from Bradley R. Wilcox. At the time, he was second counselor in the Young Man General Presidency. This one is from an Ensign College devotional, October 12th, 2011. There is a Hurry is the name of the talk. But I think I'm going to... Well, yeah, let's just compare the two. I did this in a recent video, actually. At this part, he says, gathering Israel is about preparing for the second coming of Jesus Christ. And that is how we do it. If 1 million people wanted to join the church tomorrow, would we be ready? Would we have enough bishops, which requires a Melchizedek priesthood holder, Relief Society presidents, stake presidents, which requires a Melchizedek priesthood holder, young women presidents? Would we have enough full-time missionaries, which requires Melchizedek priesthood holders? Would we have enough full tithe payers? No, we would be totally swamped. And that's just 1 million. So what's going to happen when Christ comes and says, hello, by the way, I belong to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And that's what he's going to say. And I always have to say this, you guys, he's joking at this part. That's not, Christ is not going to say, I belong to the church. He's going to say, this is my church. He's just joking. Are we going to be ready when 2 billion people want to join the church in one day? We have to be ready. Jesus isn't going to come to watch the church fail. He's going to come when the church is ready to succeed. When we have a leadership base strong enough all over the world that we will be able to welcome everyone into the church, and we will be able to, as a church, as Israel, gather all of God's children on both sides of the veil home to him. And then I think it's worth reading this one. He says essentially the same thing, but just a little bit different. This is from a fireside. This was posted to YouTube by Live Music Therapy, February 2nd, 2022. Or in other words, 2/2/2022. Brad Wilcox, 12 Tribes of Israel Breakdown. Amazing talk. And it was certainly an amazing talk, especially this part. We're going to read the red part. But when the second coming comes, that's when these tribes are going to give us a totally different organization, a different level of organization that's going to become very important. I mean, right now, we've got to get organized, because when Jesus comes and he says, by the way, I belong to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and that's what he's going to say. So do you think there's going to be a little interest in the church? Oh yeah. Will we be ready to have 2 billion people join the church in one day? Will we have enough stake presidents? Will we have enough bishops? Will we have enough young women presidents? Will we have enough full-time missionaries? Will we have enough full tithe payers? We got to get with it. We got to get organized so that when we have that huge influx into the church, it doesn't swamp us. We've got leaders all over the world who can handle that. So Elder Darling, a hypothetical missionary. So Elder Darling, you're not going to Guatemala to baptize everybody. Now that's what your mission president might say, and that's certainly what your zone leader is going to say. But really, you're there just to get things organized. Bring people into the church, help them become leaders. Help people back into the church and help them become leaders. Help youth become leaders. Help other missionaries become leaders. You've got to strengthen this organization so when Jesus comes, that's when we're going to baptize everybody. And we've got to be ready for that. So I think it makes a lot of sense that this is a move you would make as a church to free up as many Melchizedek priesthood holders as possible so that they can be stake presidents, bishops, temple workers, so on and so forth. And if there are more women in the millennium, and I do think that's going to be the case because of what prophets and apostles have said, then they're probably going to have to fill more roles and take on more responsibility. We are probably going to be relying a lot on women in that first part of the millennium, and probably throughout. I wouldn't be surprised if there's more things revealed, if they have more responsibilities. Like, who knows what's going to happen when Christ comes? But there's going to be new doctrines. We learned that from Elder Bruce R. McConkie. We're going to have new doctrines that we don't know about right now. He said that now is the time for milk, but the meat is yet in the future. It's just really exciting to think about. I would not look at this story from a quote unquote gender dynamics point of view. Don't think like the world. So there's some people that are going to be upset at this. They're like, oh, we're becoming more liberal. We're becoming more like, churches like Community of Christ, for example, or mainline churches. No, I don't think so. I don't think that this was ever doctrine, that you had to have a Melchizedek priesthood holder as the Sunday school president. It was probably a good idea. Like, generally, you probably want priesthood doing these type of things, but it's not doctrine. And I don't think it has to do with, we got to make things more equal. It could, maybe a little bit, because as the world becomes more worldly and as there's more and more focus on the struggle of power between genders, maybe it'll help some members of the church that are fixated on that kind of thing. Just make it easier. They don't have to worry about that. They feel like they are included and valued. And I think that they always were. But for me, I don't think in those ways. Maybe it'd be different if I was a woman. I don't know. But multiple birds with one stone, I think. And I think a lot of this, I feel like this entire spreadsheet here is aimed at preparing the church, number one, to become a global church. It already is, but to become an even more global church. But also potentially for an influx of new converts before the second coming, and then definitely immediately after the second coming. Let's do one more thing. Let's go to quotes. Second coming. I'm always amazed at this quote I'm about to show you. Exponential phase. November 1st, 2018, in a social media post. And as far as I know, this is the only place that he posted this. President Nelson said, "We're just at the exponential phase of growth, and it will continue. The Lord has said, I will hasten my work in its time, and he makes good on his promises. Eat your vitamins, get your rest. It's going to be exciting. We're just at the exponential phase of growth." I don't know if he's talking about before the second coming or after or both, but I believe him because he's a prophet of God. He can see into the future. He receives revelation for the church and for the world. So all hands on deck, I think. I think it's all hands on deck. All right. Well, that's going to be it for this one. I'll talk to you guys later.